So it's my proud pleasure to invite our ARC chairperson, Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy ma'am, who is, we all know, a charismatic personality. And apart from being a wonderful surgeon and a great orator, she's also a true leader and who believes in leading from front. She's always full of energy and enthusiasm. And under her leadership, we all know ARC is doing great programs and going to reach newer heights. She'll be speaking on management of ectopia lentis. Chitra ma'am.
Yeah. Very good evening to one and all of you. So without delay, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible and relevant. We shall talk on management of ectopia lentis. So essentially, ectopia lentis refers to when the lens is not in its normal position. It could be subluxated or dislocated. It is said to be subluxated when the lens is displaced from its normal position but remains in the pupillary area. And it is said to be subluxated when the lens is completely displaced from the pupillary area. It could be in the anterior chamber or it could be in the vitreous cavity. So again, when we know, once we know whether it's subluxated or dislocated, we need to very briefly know what is the etiology. It could be something as common as trauma, which is of course a non-progressive type and quite a common occurrence. It could be iatrogenic, which is surgically induced. It could be part of the primary ocular disorders which are associated with the ectopia lentis. It could be part of a hereditary status where there are no systemic manifestations. It could be part of some systemic conditions which are quite common with or associated with ectopia lentis, or some systemic diseases which are rarely associated with ectopia lentis. So trauma is the most common, as I had earlier said, and that good news here is essentially the pathophysiology is not for a progression, and these could be better managed based, of course, on the extent of dialysis. And next is the iatrogenic ectasia, which I would show you a video later on, which could again be managed based on the amount of dialysis which has been induced during the surgery. The primary ocular disorders which are associated, it could be something as common as a hypermature cataract, a pseudoexfoliation syndrome, ophthalmos, or a high myopia or more, or retinitis pigmentosa even. It could be part of the hereditary condition wherein there's a defect in the neuroectodermal tissue. So you might find that the lenticular ectopia and the pupillary ectopia are actually in opposite directions, so quite a rare scenario. It could be some of the common systemic conditions which are associated with ectopia lentis, like in Marfan's, homocystinuria, Weil-Marcesani, and others. And we need to know a little more about some of these syndromes, like Marfan syndrome. It's bilateral and symmetrical, and commonly it is a superotemporal subluxation, and you'll find that the zonules are stretched here, not matted, and they're unbroken. And progression of subluxation is quite common here. And this is an autosomal dominant status, which could have some angle anomaly with glaucoma, could have retinal detachment, could have some ocular abnormalities, skeletal and cardiac problems need to be looked out for. Homocystinuria is an autosomal recessive, wherein the lens actually subluxates inferiorly. And what is interesting is that the zonules here are matted and broken. It is, again, could be associated with secondary angle closure glaucoma. Patients of this category are taller with elongated limbs. And a major thing to remember here, there's an anesthetic risk in these patients with thromboembolic phenomenon. Again, Weil-Marcesani syndrome could be recessive or dominant. It presents largely as microspherophakia, and the lens usually dislocates into the anterior chamber with a pupillary block glaucoma. And these patients are associated with short stature. And then going on to the next category is the systemic diseases which are rarely associated with ectopia lentis, and there are many of them, which some of them which we may need to refer and keep in mind. So the next thing which we know, now we know about the kind of subluxation and the etiology. What are the symptoms? The symptoms could be based on the subluxation. It could be decreased visual acuity. So it could be astigmatism which has got incorporated. It could be a myopia which is pre-existent. It could be a cataract which is there on a aphakic status. It could be a painful eye because of the trauma, or it could be an eye which is in disuse and deviated eye, or a poor near vision because of the loss of accommodation. So it's mandatory that you do a slit lamp evaluation Look at the cornea, whether it has got some telltale sign of any associated syndrome. Look at the anterior chamber depth. Is it irregular? Which should clue you on to search for any probable iridodonosis or phacodonosis. You could look at the zonules, which might tell its own story. You need to know whether the lens is dislocated anteriorly or posteriorly. You need to have an idea of the density of the cataract because you need to plan your surgery, the extent of zonular weakness, and of course, the presence of vitreous in the anterior chamber. You need to do a gonio without fail because that will also give you an understanding whether it was trauma, whether there's an angle recession, whether pseudo-exfoliative material. You could even examine the patient in a supine position, which would tell you the extent of the dialysis and probably how would you plan? Would you go the pars plana route or are you going to go by the limbal route? You need to do an indirect, definitely in these patients to assess the retinal problem. This could be associated, and a systemic evaluation would tell you some of these syndromes which are coexistent. So the most important thing is to look at the extent of zonular weakness. Is it a mild zonular weakness? Is it moderate? It is severe, or is it very advanced? Because based on this, you're going to have your surgical plan. But then again, just a slit lamp evaluation and the amount of zonular weakness which you've seen will not be enough because there could actually be a greater damage, which is what you're going to realize on the surgical table. So then management, if it is in the early clear lens, you could correct the myopia and astigmatism. But once there is cataract and aphakia, we need to definitely, we have advanced surgical skill techniques now. We need to go in and ensure that you restore the defective vision of this patient. If there is a coexistent glaucoma, you could do an iridotomy or a medical management could be needed before you go on to doing a surgery. And if there is a defective vision, as I'd already alluded to, indications for surgery for ectopia lentis, is it cataract, aphakia, diplopia, or a nucleus which has dislocated into the anterior chamber or into the vitreous cavity. So then, when you talk about surgical correction, what is the extent of zonulopathy? Is it a progressive disease or is it something, a temporary situation like a trauma or an iatrogenic dialysis? Is it then again the experience of surgeon becomes necessary? Are you going to go by the limbal route? Are you going to go by the pars plana route? Are you going to implant an ACIOL, an iris clip, an SFIOL, or you have decided to do a phacoemulsification? Then how are you going to conserve the capsular bag? Are you going to use a CTR? Are you going to take the help of the iris or the capsule retractors or the modified CTR or the CTS? So then if you're going to do a phacoemulsification, the rhexis becomes the most important, paramount importance to ensure that the bag is preserved. So what is the challenge here? When you do a rhexis in an eye which has a zonular weakness, the challenge is you do not have the counter traction because the zonules are weak in a particular area. If it is a younger eye, the capsule is quite elastic also. So you need actually to decenter the rhexis so that once the capsular bag is centered, the rhexis becomes centered. You need to use a highly retentive viscoelastic. You should initiate the rhexis from the area of intact rhexis, and you could use counter traction with capsule retractors, as I'm showing you schematically, how capsule retractor being placed provides a counter traction so that you could go on with your rhexis. Again, but if you are on a laser platform like a femtosecond laser, you are not bothered about the counter traction of the problems with creating the rhexis, or again, you could actually decenter the rhexis so that it comes to overlie the center of the capsular bag. The next important thing which you need to keep in mind is the stabilization of the capsular bag. You could use iris hooks, capsule hooks. Now, iris hooks and capsular hooks provide the antero-posterior stabilization of the bag, whereas the CTR gives the equatorial stabilization, and the Ahmed ring segments come into play when you need to attach the capsular bag to the scleral wall. So these are the iris and the capsule retractors which you would need to know, but the importance of these is it is going to aid in your rhexis completion, as I had earlier alluded to. It is going to give you, by retracting the capsular rhexis, it aids in the CTR insertion to ensure that it is in the capsular fornix. Again, it ensures that the capsular bag is stable and there is a comfortable phacoemulsification and the lens is centered. And again, it reduces the chances of vitreous prolapse because the bag is stretched. So CTR is a compressible PMMA segment with a rounded eyelet. And what is most important for us to know is it expands the capsular equator, it buttresses the zonules, it redistributes the tension to the existing zonules, it keeps the posterior capsule taut during the surgery, it ensures that the IOL can be centered, it would also prevent shriveling of the posterior capsule if it were lax. It could actually, there could be capsule contracture and it would decrease the prevalence of PCO. Again, it comes in different sizes based on the axial length. The capsular bag size correlates with it. So you need to ensure that once you have decided what is the size of the CTR which you're going to place, once the CTR is inserted, the ends of the CTR should overlap to provide a full circumferential support. Then, of course, if a CTR would suffice if it's a mild zonular dialysis, and if it's more of a non-progressive dialysis, a CTR alone might suffice. But if there is an anterior capsular tear or a PCR or an incomplete rhexis or a severely sublux bag, a CTR alone would not suffice. So just showing you how a CTR is inserted, like you can see that you could have going to the side port, because if you go into the main port, the AC would shallow and that would increase the area of xylosis. And you should see that the CTR goes into the capsular fornix, and the very curvature of the CTR itself would ensure that it settles into the fornix. And then you need your second instrument to ensure that you're dialing into the CTR into the capsular bag and it doesn't impinge on the angle because it needs to buttress the capsular bag. So the next thing is you could use an injector system as I'm showing. The advantage of using the injector system is you could directly inject it into the capsular fornix and it takes care of some of the challenges with the CTR manipulation. You could have other capsular bag stabilization devices as I'm showing you here. You could use capsular hooks to stabilize the capsular bag and then inject viscoelastic, and then you could inject the CTR and thus go on with the surgery. Now, whether you're going to use the CTR right in the beginning or later is something which you're going to decide based on the challenge which the surgery imposes or your surgical skill. Again, you need to have a good chamber stability, low flow rates, less fluid usage. You need to have adequate power, but it has to be a slow motion phaco, and the nuclear fragment should be visible and right into the center, and you should ensure that you have an adequate size rhexis. Now I'm going to show you some surgical videos just to help you understand, get a brief idea. Now this is a case of a dialysis which is nearly more than 4 clock hours. So, and a fairly dense cataract. So using capsular retractors to give that kind of a anteroposterior stabilization, then go into the side port and then insert your CTR. The CTR, as I said, you need your second instrument to ensure that that last bit of CTR goes into the capsular bag and not impinge on the angle. And that is going to buttress and circularize your bag. And then, as I said, doing a chop technique would be ideal, more so in these kind of very dense cataract. You need to do a good hydro because that itself would ensure that there's less stress imposed on the zonules. You need to actually separate the pieces, go gently about it, create a trench, use a stop and chop or a direct chop, a vertical chop would be more ideal. So you need to ensure that you completely split the nuclear fragments. The important thing for you to know is that till the nuclear pieces are there in the capsular bag, the posterior capsule is pushed well behind. So, but as you start eating the nuclear fragment, the posterior capsule is exposed. So there is a possibility of it trampolining. So you need to be cautious when you come to your last fragments, bring down the phaco parameters. Now, this is a case of a very small dialysis and it was a traumatic cataract. So then, and again, a young guy. So the message here is, it is easy to do a centered rhexis in these eyes, but only thing, the elastic capsule. So you could actually mark the rhexis if you have those variant digital advisors. And then you need to and go about the surgery. But if you ask through the surgery, I have not placed a CTR in this case so far because it's a very small area of dialysis. So, but sometimes, even though it's a traumatic case and there is no zonular progressive cause, you could place a CTR towards the end of the surgery and then place a lens so that it stabilizes. Then there are these capsular bag anchoring devices. It could be a Cioni or a double Cioni. Essentially, there's a significant amount of subluxation in this eye. So you need to be cautious and decenter the rhexis as is being shown. Then the capsular hooks are being there placed to ensure that the capsular bag is supported. A very slow motion phaco is done. And then the CTR is being injected. You need to deepen the anterior chamber so that the posterior capsule is well away. And then you do your railroading technique and ensure that the bag is supported. You could, again, I'm going to show you another video here, how this pre-op, how the bag was decentered and how it got centered at the end of it. You could have a single Sione or a double Sione, but you need to remember that these need to be placed in an empty capsular bag and the rexes should be intact. There is a CTS which you need to know, like I'm going to show you here. This is a case where a Hoffman's pocket is being created and not a scleral flap is being created. So then you would need to inject viscoelastic, a high-end viscoelastic, create a decentered rexus away from the zonular weakness. You could place a CTR right in the beginning because there could be a fluid misdirection which could happen. But this was a very soft cataract. So then the nucleus was aspirated and then a CTR is being placed. And then one thing which you could do is, these are not a progressive kind of dialysis, but because of the asymmetric bag contracture which can occur, you could place an capsule segment in these eyes. Again, this is another case of very severe dialysis, wherein you are using capsular hoops, you're using a CTR, and you're using, again, Ahmed segments. Everything comes into play to ensure that you're able to center your bag and then place an IOL. What happens if it is, I'm not showing a case of an iatrogenic dialysis, which can be much easily managed. I would take you on to how you could deal with an alternate measure if there is a very significant subluxation as this. Now, in this particular case, this was an eye with severe pseudo-exfoliation and the bag, there was a lot of phacodonosis. You could probably do a phacoemulsification, but you could divert yourself and go on to doing an SICS surgery. And then as you can see here, that I've used a Vectis to remove the nucleus. The pupil is quite small, otherwise you could inject pilocarpine. You need to do a gentle anterior vitrectomy. You need to make your side ports at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions. And you could inject an iris clip lens in some of these cases. You could use an SF IOL or a glued IOL, but this is just one other alternate method. You could even do a iris fixation of the IOLs, which are different ways of dealing with a case where there is significant subluxation, where you do not want to do a gymnastics of using a Sione ring and a CTS segment. It could be a case of a late IOL bag subluxation, which has to be kept in mind. Some of the cases we are doing extremely well come back to you after 10 years with significant IOL bag subluxation into the vitreous, wherein you need to remove it and go in and place a SF IOL or a glued IOL in these cases. So essentially, there are these ASI anchors, there are these glued capsular hooks, there are different devices which are presently available to optimize a surgery. Post-operatively, you need to be wary that there could be uveitis if there has been an inflamed eye, there could be a coexistent glaucoma, there could be a post-op capsule phimosis or a PCO, and there could be a capsule IOL bag decentration or a subluxation. So I would like to conclude stating that subluxated lenses need a systematic pre-op evaluation, which I had alluded to in great detail. A surgical plan is so important to ensure good outcomes. And we have to keep in mind that a long-term follow-up is mandatory, as we should have the logical thinking to anticipate problems related to IOL centration in these eyes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for a wonderful presentation. So before I throw the discussion to the panelists, to expert panel, I would like to ask, ma'am, what do you prefer nowadays, either a Sione ring or the CTS? What is your preferred device if you have?
I would prefer, I think a CTR with a CTS, I certainly am not able to see on. CTR with a CTS would be the way to go in these cases, but there is very severe capsule bag dialysis. I actually just do not do any of these things and I move on to doing a iris clip lens or a scleral fixated IOL.
So Harshul, if I can just intervene here. As far as the subluxated lens is concerned, the postgraduates either get it as a long case or they get it as a short case. And when they get it, then they'll be asked what all investigations do you do, refraction from the aphakic portion, all those things, they kind of become important. And then we come to the wonderful surgeries that, Chitra showed. She covered almost everything. I mean, there was nothing which was left covered as well as far as the surgical aspect is concerned. So I feel, except for the fact, that they'll be asked, If it is less than 3 clock hours, what would you do?
Yes.
Do a low, a slow motion phaco. If 3 to 6 clock hours, what will you do? Use a CTR. I mean, these are the classic questions and the classic answers that
Yes.
PGs are, given. And then if it is more than 6 clock hours, then you'll think of, your nylon hooks to anchor the capsule, or to use a Sioni ring, or whatever. But I think the surgeries were very beautifully covered, Chitra.
I think paucity of time, I should go on to our next speaker.
Yeah,
Next
I
speaker.
think Ramamurthy sir wants to add something. Yes.
Yes.
So, please unmute yourself, sir.
He is
I am always
dumbstruck.
muted when Chitra is presenting.
Yeah,
No,
she
just-
mutes you. She mutes you purposely.
Just one comment in the sense that, there must be youngsters listening to this. And I think going forward in their professional lifetimes, many of these gymnastics they are seeing of, capsular bags with 8 clock hours, 12 clock hours of subluxation being handled this way. It may go away because now secondary IOL implantation, the Yamane technique, scleral fixation, iris clip lenses, etc., which are quite stable during the lifetime of patient, are becoming well accepted. So maybe when faced with extreme subluxation, instead of involving yourself in all these complex surgeries, it might even be a good idea to go ahead and just remove that lens and do a secondary IOL fixation. I have had significant discussion with posterior segment surgeons, and we always used to believe that compartmentalization of the two chambers matters a lot. But they feel that if primary lens removal and a good anterior vitrectomy is done and secondary IOL implantation is fixed properly, then the ultimate outcomes are just the same. Now with Gore-Tex sutures, etc., coming in, the stability of these lenses are also reasonably assured.
And don't forget the ACIOL, which you are expected to answer in the exam. I mean, you can talk about glued IOLs, Yamane technique, everything, but then ACIOL also remains an option.
The only challenge with ACIOLs is the sizing of these lenses. They have to be 1 millimeter above the wide to wide diameter. So obviously you don't have a library of lenses of different powers available. If the sizing is not proper, then they are prone to different complications.
And when they ask you how you are going to manage these cases, first thing is you can say that you're going to refer it to a experienced surgeon like Dr. Chitra, who will do a good job, and the gymnastics. Or if you don't want to do gymnastics, then probably how to do SICS and then manage it with an iris clip lens, iris claw lens, or a secondary scleral fixation. That is also something that Dr. Chitra showed. So that you have to keep in mind. And sometimes, like Dr. Ramamurthy said, extensive, progressive zonulolysis cases, even if you fix the capsular bag with the CTR and CTS over a period of time, these dislocate. So if there is progressive zonulopathy, then it's better probably to remove the bag and whole lens, do a proper vitrectomy, and do a secondary IOL procedure like a glued IOL or Yamane or fourth flange technique, as Dr. Ramamurthy alluded. Very nice surgeries, Dr. Chitra.
Excellent surgeries.